Hi everyone, it's Michael, and it's time for the April 2019 Orchid Collection Update. You guys, I'm going to be super honest, April was not my month, and it was certainly not the month for my orchids. And yes, a lot of really wonderful things are happening, but they are overshadowed, at least for me, by the problems that have presented themselves. And the problems are a direct result of my aggressive travel schedule for work. I was gone about 80% of this entire month, you guys, and it has definitely adversely impacted these plants. Now, I will say, God bless my husband. He has stepped up to the plate. He has very graciously offered to care for 60 plus plants while I've been gone. But here's the problem. It comes back to the conversation of being a mechanical orchid grower versus an intuitive orchid grower. And if you didn't see that video, I'll link it below. But I have an intuitive rapport that I've built with these plants. I know if they need increased air movement. I know if they want to be shifted just slightly. I have to be present to respond in the moment to what they need, because they really are, they each have their own spirit. God, I feel like Pocahontas. I'm like, has a life, has a spirit, has a name. But truly, I have an intuitive rapport with these plants that can't be listed on paper in a to-do list. So Justin knows, for example, okay, the bulbophyllums need to be watered and soaked every 2 days. The vandas have to be soaked for this long. Make sure that the humidifier is filled. There are mechanics that I can provide him for what needs to happen, but he doesn't have the tools or resources to respond in the moment to each plant. And because of that, I'm starting to feel a little ethically unsound about having this many plants. Now, I'm not making any definitive decisions, but I am considering paring down my orchid collection to really centralize and focus on plants that I can and have availability to care for. So that's a sidebar. That's what's going on in my head. Now, I will say that I made two really big oversights when I left for business this month. I forgot to tell Justin to make sure that he was opening the window regularly. So the air got very stagnant in the apartment. The humidity skyrocketed. It was up to 70 when I came home. So that stale, humid air, I think it's creating some bacterial rot. Beyond that, I also forgot to tell him to make sure that he shifted the AC at night. So to give my plants a nice diversity in temperature, I try to drop the AC down to around 68 degrees when I go to bed from the standard 72 that I have it, just to give it a nice nighttime fluctuation, and I didn't ask him to do that. So the plants were in a much warmer, much more stagnant environment, and it yielded some really negative results. Now, in terms of my system this month, I am doing pretty much exactly what I did last month. The plants are, for the most part, being fed by slow-release fertilizer, Osmocote. They are also getting flushed 1 to 2 times a month with reverse osmosis water, and I'm using that same reverse osmosis water to fill their water reservoir. I do think that I have overdone it with the slow-release fertilizer on a couple of the plants. At first, I thought they were getting sunburned, but now I think it's actually, they're just responding poorly to the abundance of Osmocote in their containers. And I think a large part of that was, I knew that this was going to be experimental and I knew it was going to have some consequences, but I basically gauged it based off of how large of a container I was putting it into. So if it was a large container that say had 3 cups of leca, I would say, okay, 3/4 teaspoons of Osmocote. I really just eyeballed it based off of volume and the type of root, but some plants don't seem to like it and some plants love it. So that's a whole lot of lead-in. Without further introduction, let's just go ahead and jump in and talk about the plants so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and jump in with number 3 in the collection. This is my Wilsonara Aloha Sparks. So this one hasn't been doing super well ever since I divided it, which I massacred the root system. I'll link that video below. Never do what I did. But it was starting to recover, and if I take you into the base of the pseudobulb, you can see it did have a lovely new growth coming in right there. But unfortunately, it aborted because of, I think, again, that stagnant, really, really humid air, and then everything started to mold. So hopefully this will bounce back. I'm not sure if it will. Now on to number 7. This is my Dendrobium nobile to my kids. It's one of my favorite orchids. And what I want to showcase here is you can see it's losing leaves. And this is what I thought was a sunburn. At first, I thought this was just sunburn, but then it started to appear in patterns like this, and it was on new growths as well. So that is what makes me believe that I've over-fertilized with the Osmocote. I think it's just burning it a little bit, and you can see it's popping up kind of all over the place. So I just need to flush more aggressively with water until this starts to resolve. It's been in there for a while now. Also, I read somewhere that if they see temperatures of upwards of, 84 degrees, that the little pellets can burst. So I think that because this is getting direct sunlight, there's also a possibility that those pellets are releasing too much nutrient solution all at once, So that's a possibility too that I'm assessing, but I'm not quite sure. Independent of that, it actually is doing a great job of putting out a bunch of new roots. It's kind of venturing all over the medium, and that's what's going on with number 7. Now we're going to leap to, this is my Cyclopses Mendenhall Hildos, and this one hasn't done much of anything for a very long time, so I repotted it and I added a top layer of sphagnum moss. I think it maybe just needed additional humidity. So I'm curious to see if that yields any real change and if it starts to excel or give me a flower spike. I've had this guy for about 2 years, so we'll see if that makes a difference. Now we're going to jump to number 13. This is my, gosh, this poor thing has seen so many traumas. But this is my Phragmipedium, and it was doing really, really well. It was getting more regular flushings with reverse osmosis water. But again, I think that elevated humidity, I think the stagnant air, and not getting its water reservoir flushed as regularly while I traveled has caused this dieback to start all over again. So that's unfortunate, but hopefully we can bounce back. Now this next one is really, it's so devastating. And it's so important that we share this with each other as orchid growers because these things do happen. I'm so sad about it, but you remember how excited I was. I've never seen this plant in bloom. It gave me 3 flower spikes and look what happened to them. Dried all the way up, drying up, and drying up. Now, when this one dried up, I thought it was because, see how these are starting to lean this way towards the light? When it started to do that on the opposite side, I flipped the entire container so that it would continue to grow upright. And then this blasted. So I thought, oh, okay, it happened because I changed the light source. That was my fault. But I'm not 100% sure why both of these blasted. It was in the exact same environment in which it grew. I'm wondering if the intensity of the light as it shifts to spring in Los Angeles was just too much for these. So maybe once the spikes initiated, I should have moved it to a slightly more, not dim, but bright indirect light as opposed to getting bombarded by direct light. But that seems to kind of invert the expectation for what needs to happen when it has these new ones in growth. So I'm super sad because I was so eager to see these guys really bloom. I don't know what color they're going to be. I don't know what they're going to look like. I know, again, the parentage of this plant, but I don't know what this plant itself will look like. So it looks like a minimum of another year before I'll find out who you are and what you look like. But it's just a part of the narrative of being an orchid grower, and I'm not going to give up, and I will not be discouraged. This is a part of the process. But you can see the part that really does make me so sad is I only found out because I moved the container, and they just started to pop right off. And if you come closer, you can see I thought maybe they might be yellow blooms, but they're not. They're just super dry and they pop right off. So sad. So now onto a slightly happier story. We're gonna move on to my Ascocenda Betty Mae Steele Carmela. So this one I transitioned to basket culture and it just could not be more pleased about it. Look at it gripping this basket, you guys. Everywhere it can, it's putting out new roots. It is just happy as a clam. If I take you into the base, look at that. I have never seen such accelerated growth from this plant in the years that I've had it. It likes basket culture so much. So I'm really pleased to see how this one continues to evolve. And hopefully I'll get a flower spike from it this year. Who knows? Now we're going to move on to my Zygopetalum. Again, this is another sad story. So this one was really starting to rebound. You can see this is an entirely brand new growth. And it hasn't rotted or anything, but the few remaining leaves it had started to yellow. That humidity and that stagnant air really adversely impacted this. I find that my Zygopetalum and my Zygonesia actually prefer to be interacted with a little bit like my Phragmipedium. I think they just want to be flushed more regularly. They do not like mineral buildup. So again, my absence has really adversely impacted this one's ability to rebound. So that's unfortunate. Now let's take a look. I just wanted to show you. These are my Bulbophyllums, and I finally just repotted them, and I put them. It's so crazy. You think it would be, you think it's bark and that it is mounted that way, but it's actually a little plastic mount that I got for geckos, which incidentally, my husband just bought a gecko. I don't know what he does. But I mounted it onto this. I added some sphagnum moss and I just wrapped it loosely with some fishing wire. And it seems to be really liking it. I've been soaking them every other night. So that's number 19. That's my Bulbophyllum Fascinator. This is my Bulbophyllum Ambrosia. What really catalyzed that choice was this one has bloomed for me before in Semi-Hydroponics. But this one just never, ever liked it. It did not put out new roots. It just never, after 2 years, it did nothing. So I'm really trying to see if this is going to shift the equation and make anything better. Now we're gonna move on to what I believe is number 22. Gosh, I am all over the place with my numbers today, you guys. But this is my Maxillaria tenafolia. I actually get a lot of requests for this one. And this is one where I also think that I may have overdone the amount of slow release fertilizer. And you can tell because this one isn't even in direct sunlight, so it's definitely not a sunburn, but its tips are starting to brown a bit. So I think I just overdid it there. I'm gonna cut that back. But overall, it's still super healthy. It's still super vigorous. It's putting out new growth after new growth. So it doesn't seem to be super adversely impacted, but it definitely does not love the volume of nutrients that I've given it. Picking back up with number 28 in the collection, we all know her, we all love her. This is my Cattleya mini purple blue Hawaii, and you may recall I divided her into this plant and then 6 other baby divisions. Now when I did it, I was super concerned that I had misstepped because she, as well as all of the baby divisions, froze for a period of about a month and a half. They did absolutely nothing. But now look at this gorgeous splay of roots. So I'm gonna do a separate video to spotlight this and all of her divisions and kind of show you what that process looks like. But she is doing so well. She has a new growth coming in. It just makes me so happy to see her bouncing back. I would have been absolutely devastated if something bad happened. And I approached this division in a much more calculated way than I did with number 3. So I think that will be my protocol moving forward. And I'm excited to share that with you. Now on to number 29. This is my Eulaphia petersi, and it's finally giving me a brand new growth. You can see right down here. You can also see it's covered in mold, and it's not using its water reservoir very effectively. I've wondered if this is the right fit for so long. These are desert growing orchids. They're supposed to grow in the sand. And I always have this conflict with myself because I need to see if orchids will grow in semi-hydroponics because most things will eventually adapt. They'll struggle, but they'll eventually adapt. But this one has never quite thrived, and I've had it for almost 2 years now. So I always have to make that informed decision. Okay, do I transfer it back to its original grow method, the one that I know it prefers, at the risk of really endangering the plant? Or do I just let it settle for a while? So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this one yet, but it is a good sign that it has this new growth. Maybe this new growth will be bigger than the last year's, but we'll see. Now we're going to move to number 33. I don't know. This is another victim, you guys. When I said that I feel like it spread bacterial rot because of the elevated humidity in the apartment, this is what I'm talking about. So you can see this new growth. It actually had a leaf that fell off right there. You can see this brown scale all over it. And then if I take you into the old growth, you can see it's kind of, this wasn't here before. So down here, this is all covered in white mold. You guys, it's an epidemic. Like, I know this is super unappealing, and I'm sure it's not a very flattering representation of me as an orchid grower, but I do want to be really honest that these things happen. Like, this is a big learning lesson for me. I've never been away from my orchids for this long, and I didn't realize how much could go wrong this quickly. So I know that this is unappealing, and I feel really awful about it, but this is the risk. This is what happens. So hopefully you haven't made this mistake that I have, and it'll prevent you from making it, but I do just want to be honest about it. Now let's go to, this is number 34 in the collection. This is my Ludicea discolor, and this one has just been absolutely insane. It's putting out new growth after new growth after new growth. You can see where else are it's got new growths coming in there. They're kind of all over the place. You can see one coming in there. But the remarkable thing is this guy has been in bloom since the beginning of January, you guys, and it just now started to fade. So I'm probably just going to clip this back to really empower these new growths to fully mature. And I'm also going to get it repotted ASAP because, I mean, I'm so surprised that it's thrived in this semi-hydroponic environment. I'm going to keep it semi-hydroponics because it doesn't seem to mind it. I'm just going to give it a better shaped grow container. So now we're going to jump from number 34 all the way to number 39. This is my Zygonesia cynosure bluebird. I just wanted to show you the same thing that happened with my Zygopetalum is happening here. These new growths started to yellow and rot out, which is super unfortunate from, I think, again, that stagnant air. Now, I never filmed a bloom profile. It just dropped its last bloom. I don't want to give you a full bloom profile video if I'm not showing you how it actually looks when it's in a full display. Now on to number 46. This is my Oncidium Twinkle, and I just wanted to share with you, this one rotted out an entire bulb. And then on this side, it's also, you can see it's mushy and rotting out on that guy as well. It did not like the still air. It just did not like it. So that's what I wanted to showcase on this one. I hope it bounces back. Similarly, this is number 47. This is one of my Paphiopedilums. It's been doing so phenomenally well, but after my absence, it started to rot back. I can see it happening on this side as well. So that's super unfortunate. I'm gonna clip it back, give it a good flush, sterilize its wounds with cinnamon, and hope for the best. Now on to number 48 in the collection. This is my Cymbidium Murasaki sinense. Now this is another one that I over-fertilized, you guys. You can see based off of, look at all these burns that popped up. At first I thought it was just sunburns, but then it started to speckle. It does not like the volume of fertilizer I gave it. And I definitely overdid it with this one. I just thought, it's a Cymbidium, it wants to eat a lot. So you might be a little bit alarmed by all of these neighboring growths that are on this plant. I have left those there on purpose. I've actually kind of cultivated them there on purpose. Now that I've made the assessment that it has too much nutrient solution, rather than unpotting the plant and traumatizing it to remove it, I'm allowing these, they're not even invasive plants. They're super easy to pull out when I don't want them there, and they're also super easy to start. I don't know where I found this plant. I think it came riding in on a plant that I had before. And I just did it as an experiment. But I kind of place them when I need nutrient solution to be metabolized by another plant because it's overwhelming the orchid. And it does a really good job of halting that, I don't know, the fertilizer burning these leaves. So I'm gonna leave that there for a little while until, I mean, how long ago did I put? It's a 4-month slow release fertilizer. So eventually it'll run its course and I won't have to worry about it. But for now, this is my workaround. I know it's weird, but that's just what I'm doing. On to number 49. This is just another, I'm so bummed about this, you guys. This is my Motopetalum Bertfield Eileen. And as you know, these are very challenging plants to grow. Every single new growth on this has rotted out. And then I finally figured out with reverse osmosis water, its proper lighting, the regular flushing, and new growth, like you can see, the new growth has gotten pretty sizable. But again, that stagnant air did this. So I'm gonna clip those back. I'm gonna sterilize the wounds with cinnamon and hope for the best. Now we're gonna jump, I believe this is number 50, I don't even know what number this is. This is my Dendrobium hibiki. My husband got this for me for my birthday. Growths were dying off every which way, but finally that root system has ventured down into the medium and the die-off has halted. I think it's gonna be just fine. It just needed some time to work its way downward, especially with all of these keikis growing off of everything. I don't wanna fuss with this. It already has seen a lot of trauma, so I'm not gonna separate the keikis just yet. I'm gonna let at least one of those growths get fully established with the root system in the leca before I do anything else. But that's what's going on with my hibiki. I think that was actually number 53. Now on to number 54. This is my Cattleya Volcano Prince. And you guys, this one is just doing awesome, just as projected. And this is one that does not mind the abundance of slow release fertilizer I put in. It has just really put out the most expansive, happy, healthy root system. And as a product, it has new growths coming out everywhere. There's one, there's two, I don't know if you can see it to the left. But there are just new growths popping out every which way on this plant. It is going to, I think it's going to give me a beautiful bloom this year, or at least a few beautiful blooms. I just couldn't be more happy. Now on to number 56. You guys know that the Miltonia Sunset is my favorite orchid, and I'm just so pleased because 56 is giving me not one flower spike there, but beep boop bop over this way. There's another one on its way in on the new growth. This one is doing so exceptionally well. It's put down this entire root system. It has a top dressing of sphagnum moss that it seems to really have appreciated in its adaptation to semi-hydroponics. But this one's just doing phenomenally well, and I'm super pleased about that. Now we're gonna jump to, this is a crazy one, you guys. Number 58, this is my Coryanthes macrantha. And wouldn't you know it, it went into bloom while I was gone. I am so devastated, you guys. This was the most vibrant, gorgeous bloom yesterday. And I didn't get an opportunity to really showcase it. And I was like, okay, I'll film that tomorrow. And then when I woke up, the colors had vanished from it. The bloom is already fading because I was gone for the majority of its time. I did post a bunch of videos on my personal Instagram about this plant when it was at its peak, and that was yesterday. So I will actually edit those in so you can see what it looked like. Now you may or may not recall that orchid I told you I have that was spotlighted on our planet. Well, guess who opened while I was gone? And look what a beauty she is. Oh my God, you guys. So visibility on this is going to be challenging, but I'm going to do my best. If you can see, it's dripping this beautiful saccharine fluid into this bucket. And what happens is bees fly in to collect that fluid, and then they get stuck inside the actual sap. It's almost like oil. So the bee gets stuck in the inside of this bucket, and the entirety of the bucket is very, very smooth, so it cannot climb out. But there are slight ridges which will direct the bee eventually out of this exit point right here. And this exit point is actually a pollination mechanism, and it'll attach pollen to the bee's back oop, I touched it too hard, right there as it climbs out so that it'll go fly into another bucket orchid and pollinate it. It's insane. And look at the size of this bloom, you guys. It's almost as big as my hand. It is not a small orchid. This is probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had as an orchid grower. I am so, so pleased. And I actually think that there might be another flower spike coming in right at the base there. But this is what it looks like as the bloom starts to fade. You can see it's so sizable. And if I take you in, there's quite a fair amount of the sap that it drips into its bucket. It's so, so interesting. And believe it or not, I think I might actually have another bloom on the way, or another flower spike at least. I don't know if you can see right at the base of that pseudobulb right next to the other flower spike. And I don't know if you can tell, this one here was really, really damaged. I used to have a bunch of books up here, and the books out of nowhere came collapsing down and it smashed this, and I thought it was not going to bloom because the flower spike had already grown to about here. I thought it was going to abort. I was devastated. I'm embarrassed to say I cried. I actually literally cried. But I'm so pleased that it finally bloomed. I just wish that I could have really done a full showcase of this incredible plant. This orchid was actually just featured on Our Planet. And actually I think now I'm repeating myself because I said that in my Instagram story. But it does have a beautiful new growth on the way. And I look forward to seeing what my journey with this plant will be like over time. So now let's go to number 59. Less of a positive story. This is my Cloesia Rebecca Northern. Look at all that white mold, you guys. This one just is not doing well. I repotted it at the wrong time. I did everything wrong with this plant for a second time. I don't know if it's going to make it. And if it doesn't, I'm going to try again because I want so desperately to do well with this plant. I just keep making poor choices because I'm so eager to see it in bloom. So that's what's going on with number 59. Now let's jump to number 61. This is my Potinara. And I know that people are going to tell me, and by people I mean Michael McCarthy. Hi, Michael. He's like, I don't think that's a valid species name anymore, or whatever the technical terminology is. So this is forever my Potinara. So you can see the root system is really, really rotting out. That is to be expected. And also in classic Cattleya fashion, as its root system rots out, it's giving me a whole splay of new roots on the way. So let me just, oh, it's such a big guy. Do you see the new roots popping out? There. I mean, it really, these guys just waste no time in getting acclimated. So the second it starts to notice its roots are rotting, it's like pooping out roots. So that's really positive. A bunch of new growths coming out every which way. So I think this one will be just fine. This is my Epilalio Cattleya, and it is just doing so, so well. You can see it too has a root system that is starting to rot away. But as that happens, look what's happening to its existing root system. They are branching, it's putting out a bunch of new roots straight down into the medium. It's happy, it's healthy, it's loving its life. So I'm super pleased about that. I don't know if you can even see her. No, you can't. I was gonna show you our gecko, Tonka, but she's hiding, she's shy. But that's pretty much it, you guys. Again, I know that this isn't the most favorable snapshot of my orchid collection you've ever seen. But I do just want to offer a cautionary tale. If you don't have the capacity and time to care for these plants, do not get more. I will not be getting more orchids. Okay, I'm hesitating because that sounds like a really, really big commitment for me. But I don't think I'm going to pick up any more orchids for a while. I do think that I might start to rehome some of the ones that aren't my absolute favorite or I don't lose my mind for, just because it's not fair. These plants do have spirits. They do, I don't know. I just feel really, really conflicted about not being able to properly care for these because they're so beautiful and they bring me so much joy. So why would I not empower them to live happier, healthier lives with an owner that can give them the full attention that they need? So I know that's kind of a somber note to end on, but that's where I'm at. I love you guys so much. Thank you, as always, for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions or concerns or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Oh, and side note, one of the things I want to applaud all of you on is you guys have all picked up on the fact that I'm too busy to respond to comments, and you've been helping each other in the comment section. Please, please, please continue to do that. I love you guys for that. This is a mutually supportive community, and I love that you've all taken the initiative to really support each other as orchid growers. That makes me happy. That is how the world will be a better place. So please keep doing that. Again, I love you all so much. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.